Since the dawn of the GAA in 1884, the telling of its stories have been just as important as the sports. Through the years, heroes and matches have been immortalised, inspiring generation after generation. But some of its most important stories have also gotten lost or turned into legend. And in this series, we will explore some of the GAA's most fascinating forgotten tales, separating rumour from reality and myth from the truth that is often more amazing than the fiction. I'm Michael Foley.
And I'm Ciaran O'Hara.
So join us for Over the Bar, exploring the histories of the GAA.
Giva Corja, welcome back to the latest edition of Over the Bar. Mick, this is a feel-good episode. We'll come around to the topic in a minute, but we've been getting great engagement from some of our listeners.
Oh, yes.
So big thanks for all the messages that came in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of debate about whether Jim Steins was the GAA's greatest export.
Are you serious?
Yeah, had a case made for a couple of the golfers.
Okay, who?
P. Harrington and P. McGinley were referenced.
I suppose P. Harrington played a bit, and of course his dad, Paddy Harrington, who won All-Ireland medals with Cork footballers. Paul McGinley has a connection, I suppose. Yeah, he obviously is a connection. Did they play at a high level with Dublin, though? I'm not sure they did.
Who am I to diminish the career of two stellar golfers when it comes to Gaelic games?
We're not going to go. We're not even going to go there. And of course, Paul McGinley played something of a role in Donegal's triumphs of the past 10 to 15 years as well, kind of advising Jim McGuinness and having chats, fireside chats and whatnot. And McGuinness himself kind of quid pro quo right back at you when McGinley was involved with successful Ryder Cup teams as well. So, yeah, to be fair, like it's a good. You mentioned it in that episode as well. Like if you look at the Olympic athletes who came from GA stock, there's a fair argument to be made for some of those. I'm still going to say Steins because I think we teased that out in that episode. Like quite beyond his sporting prowess, just his social standing. You know, his standing as a. I hate using the word icon. I really do, but he's an iconic figure in Australia. Certainly over an iconic figure of the past. What would we say, Ciaran? Maybe last 15 to 20 years in Australia, isn't he?
You could say 30.
Yeah. So I mean,
realistically,
it's a high bar for any of the golfers. But fair enough. Yeah. I have to go back and have a look at Pádraig Harrington's minor football record or hurling record with Dublin now.
One other bit of correspondence we've had, Mick, as regards the shirt sponsorship.
Oh, yeah, that's from a few weeks
Rory
back.
Rafferty. Yeah, Rory Rafferty has been in touch from the Drumcerne Club in Derry. And he mentioned that when the sponsorship came in 1991, a bit like the county team, they got a car sponsor involved, a local company called G. Devlin Motors. And they have actually... in a nod to Dingle, they have the red jersey with the white hoop in the middle.
Oh, very nice.
And they put the G. Devlin Motors just above the band, so it'd be more visible.
Hang on, no. So it's on the. So to get a good mental image, it's on the red as opposed to the white.
Yeah, it's on the red above the white band. Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, their own clubman Harry Shivers, who was the county chairman at the time, informed them that it was just outside the allowable limit for the size of it.
No.
So the G in G. Devlin Motors had to be picked off each one of the jerseys.
Oh, no. So we had a big G and a slightly smaller Devlin, I'm guessing. So
yeah, but it actually seems to have worked for them because they did actually go on to win that year's intermediate championship in Derry with the Devlin Motors over the band. So appreciated that bit of correspondence from Rory.
Absolutely. It's great.
And he did mention that Car Hill Car Sales actually sponsors, they're still around and they sponsored the Derry Miners in 2022. So
fair play to them. And I'm sure for this shout out, there's a couple of UK imports heading south as we speak. I'll be driving around in a Vauxhall Vectra there, and if you see me driving around a Vauxhall Vectra, you know it all worked out fine.
Okay, I think you better check whether that's what Carhill Motors actually deals in. But anyway, we'll get away from the community notes. As I say, if anybody does want to get in touch, do feel free.
Love GAA history? Then you love going deeper with Over the Bar's Corja Club membership. For just €5 a month, you'll get exclusive member-only episodes and series, early ad-free access to the main podcast, plus detailed show notes, a newsletter, and the chance to have your questions answered. Join Michael Foley and Ciaran O'Hara as they uncover the stories, the legends, and the questions that shaped our games. Don't just listen, be part of the club. Join now at overthebar.club.
Mick, we mentioned the golfers.
Yes.
We mentioned the subject of trying to assess status or performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads us very nicely to our question this week, which is, how did the GAA All-Stars first start?
Yeah, exactly. All the way back in 1971. Imagine, Ciaran, all those years ago. And actually, funny enough, just a coincidence of time. If this is a pure coincidence of timing, if you're listening to this as a free episode, I'm currently in conclave with the GAA football selectors for this year's All-Star. If you're,
I hope you mean listening on the day of release, because if you're still in conclave, for the person that's picking up a couple of weeks later, we're in bother.
I know. No, it's fine. It's on completely on the day. And of course, obviously, if you're a Carja member, you're listening to this a day before. So if you're listening to it the day before, I'm sure that I'll still be in quiet contemplation, just myself and my God and a GA Plus subscription, just trying to figure out the merits of various cornerbacks and wingbacks whose brilliance during the season may or may not have just, passed me by.
So whose job is it to fly the white smoke at these little conclaves of yours?
So it's I tell you what, right? It's only my second year on it, right? On the football committee. So last year was my first time in the debate. After years, obviously, like everybody else, sitting on the outside wondering, and how these things go. And of course, given our jobs, you hear bits and pieces coming out from the meetings and how this went and how that went, but not much. It's the All-Stars used to be an incredibly leaky vessel years ago. Not so much now. And I have to say, even the quality of the debate last year kind of, made me sit up and start to go, right, I'm going, it's not that I didn't try, Ciaran, but last year, but certainly it would make you look around and go, okay, there's a lot of thought, analysis, huge amount of debate goes into this. In many ways, when you look back at...
And you guys you're picking the All-Star team in this conclave?
Exactly. So the All-Star nominees, as people would probably would have spotted, I don't know, what do we know? Maybe a month ago or something. I'm not sure when they came out, but there's an initial meeting to pick nominees. And then there's the meeting to pick the team, which is occurring, as I say, 5th of November. So, compared to the 1971 iteration, which we'll get into shortly, and the stories you would have heard down the years of boozy, smoke-filled rooms, then meetings that went on way past midnight, and, kind of teams that were kind of thrown together a little bit, and there would have been huge amount of kind of question marks over a lot of them. Like what happens now, and it's still brilliantly contentious. Obviously, the teams come out and people will argue and debate, and that's maybe the best thing about it. If you don't have the potential to win an award, it's the debate is the thing. And how could they pick that fella or that fella? But when you actually drill into the process, when you're there watching the process of how these things get picked, it's very forensic and it's very, very detailed. And it is, I suppose, in a way, Ciaran, it's kind of in keeping with how the games have evolved themselves. It's all very professional now compared to maybe 50 odd years ago when this thing started out. It was all done with the best of intentions, but still seat of the pants stuff. I mean, when we started into this story about the first All-Stars, I wasn't sure what we were going to find. But
yeah, we've kind of referenced in a previous episode that the big award prior to the All-Stars was the Caltex or Texaco Player of the Year award.
Player of the Year award, yeah. I mean, I had
so tell me, how does it go from that to the GAA have their own award system now?
In the 60s, as you say, we'll just rewind a little bit to the 1960s. There was an august body formed at some point along the way called the Association of Gaelic Sports Journalists. I'm sure
that does sound to me like an excuse for them to meet in bowls or something.
I can't really see any other reason for them to exist, to be honest. But they had an award scheme sponsored by Gael Lynn, and that was the Hurler and Footballer of the Year. So that was the Association of Gaelic Sports Journalists. It didn't have the status of the Caltex Awards it was at the time, which became the Texaco Award, the Players of the Year. They also had an idea, the association, this is the early 60s, about an all-star concept. And they went so far, Ciaran, as to convene in a pub on Moore Street one night. And after a lively debate, shall we say, which I presume was a euphemism for just going on the absolute lash, and then someone at the end went, we better come up with a decision here. And I went, yeah, we'll do it. It's a great idea. Let's do it. Motion passed. We will explore the idea of an all-star concept. But then Val Dorgan from the Cork Examiner, as it was at the time, said, hang on a minute. In the midst of all this enthusiasm, he said, we should have a 2/3 majority here, really, so that we know that everybody's on board. And this,
yeah, we got to keep with GAA convention.
And then I would imagine maybe Val also realised that it was someone's round, and maybe that's why he said it, to extend the meeting a bit further. Anyway, it turned out there was a really heated argument, and they ended up coming up with nothing. They had no final decision. So what happened then afterwards was, very shortly afterwards, Gaelic Weekly magazine created its own award scheme, Teams of the Year. And they called that the Cuchulainn Awards. And that ran from about 1963 to 67. But the problem for all of these things was, in the same way that the Journalists Award scheme for the Players of the Year, sponsored by Gaelin, couldn't get the traction of the Texaco Awards, the Gaelic Weekly Awards, the Cuchulainn Awards, were largely ignored by the other journalists and the other newspapers. So they were there, and they were an event and so on, but they weren't anything like what the All-Stars would come to be. So in the spring of 1971, out in the campus at UCD, Eugene McGee, later to be feted and remembered and immortalised as the Offaly football manager, and Irish compromise rules manager, and marvellous columnist, far-seeing columnist in the newspapers for many years. He was the UCD GA club secretary, and he was running the All-Ireland 7-a-side championships out in Belfield. And he decided to invite a couple of journalists, namely Paddy Downey from the Irish Times, John D. Hickey from the Irish Independent, Padraig Purcell from the Irish Press, and Mick Dunn from RTE, to come out to UCD on a rainy, miserable day and to sit in a caravan out of the wet and look out the window at the matches and pick.
This is all feeling very Father Ted.
It's very, the players are...
Who was playing in UCD at the time? Who can we do the near, far away?
Yeah. Colm O'Rourke is near, but whatever. Kevin Kilmurray is far away. So so they were kind of doing pick a best team from the All Ireland 7-a-side, best player, and also stuff like the best turned out team, the smartest looking team. That was another one. They got PJ Carroll cigarettes on board as sponsors for the All-Ireland 7-a-side. So a guy called Pat Heenahan, who was the PR manager for Carroll's at the time, was knocking around as well. So anyway, the day goes along and the journalists are sitting around and they remember their idea from the late 60s. This comes up from time to time. Again, when they're in conclave in wherever, the Derrick Vale after a match up on Gardner Street, or some pub on Moore Street.
Or in conclave in a caravan.
Or in conclave in a caravan, watching to see how fast the kettle will boil. They're there, they're having a chat. And they say, geez, what about that all-star idea? So they say it to Pat Heenahan, and he goes, yeah, interested. A week later, he comes back a week later. He says, yeah, Carroll's are interested. If you can get this up and running, we'll put our shoulders behind us. It goes directly then to Sean O'Shea-Con, who's the GA Secretary General at the time, and Pat Fanning, the GA President. Now, they were already a bit sniffy about tobacco sponsorship. Listeners to the sponsorship episode we did a while back that you referenced earlier will recall that 71 is a bit of a pivotal year because the McNamee report comes out, which is this report that's looking ahead for the GA. What's the GA going to look like in another couple of decades' time? And the idea of sponsorship is floating about. Pat Fanning himself, in this time, he describes sponsorship as a give and take arrangement. He understands that there's reservations about taking money as an amateur organisation, but it could be a give and take thing. And that's an interesting way to just nudge the door slightly open for the idea of sponsorship. So O'Shea-Con and Fanning consider the idea, and they go, yeah, actually, this is a pretty nice idea. The idea of an all-star football and an all-star hurling team, it's pretty good. So they go, yeah, let's go for this. And Carroll's get on board, as I say, as a sponsor. It's officially announced and approved and all the rest of it in August 1971. Now, as it stands now, the modern iteration, okay, you've got two separate committees for hurling and football. I think it's about a dozen on each. I'm not 100%. I'd have to go back and check my email that I got inviting me to, submit my nominations and what have you. I think it's about a dozen. Back then, in 1971, the first version, they initially had 27 full-time journalists proposing nominations for each position, hurling and football, right?
Oh, this can't get confusing at all, can
Well,
it?
you end up with over 200 players nominated for 30 positions across hurling and football.
Oh, and I love the breakdown of where they landed.
Oh, it's great.
There are 11 goalies nominated.
This is just the football now. This is just the Gaelic football, yeah.
Yeah.
So 11 goalies, 9 right cornerbacks, 8 fullbacks, 9 left cornerbacks. The very first All-Star ever announced, because he was the only man nominated at right half back, is Eugene Mulligan of Offaly. So he's automatically the number 5. You've 8 centre backs, 13 left half backs, 17 midfielders, 10 right half forwards, 9 centre forwards, 8 left half forwards, 14 right corner forwards, and only a half dozen full forwards and 7 left corner forwards. And interestingly enough, Ray Cummins, who's also nominated on the hurling panel, is nominated for 4 forward spots out of 6 in the football list. So it's enormous.
That could have been someone in the Cummins household now.
I tell you what, amazing. So it's 27 journalists pick the nominees, and then it slims down to an 11-man selection committee for the 2 teams. So again, you have the men in the caravan. You've John D. Hickey, you've got Donald Carroll as well from the Herald, John Common from the Sunday Independent, Pádraig Purcell is there, Sean O'Callaghan from the Evening Press and RTE, Eugene McGee, who of course who set the grounds for the whole thing to even happen. He's with the Sunday Press at the time, so he's in. Jim O'Sullivan from the Irish Examiner, who became a guardian of the scheme really for decades afterwards. And then you have Mick Dunn and Micheál O'Hare from RTE. They got Gary Trimble, who was a sculptor at the time, to design the trophies. And it was a big thing. And of course, because the newspaper men were involved in this now, it was getting way more pushed than any other award scheme had before. I mean, there was going to be a black tie banquet. This was stuff that was new. Like Jim O'Sullivan would have mentioned years later that, the idea of having a black tie dinner, it was in Juries and Ballsbridge, the award ceremony. That was a big thing. Like, it wasn't something that the GAA that really happened in GAA. That was more of a rugby thing or other sports.
It's creating a social event for the GAA.
It's creating a social event, and it's a kind of a social standing thing as well. It's presenting the GAA not necessarily as a kind of a rural pursuit, I suppose. A kind of a thing that they do down the country. We're having a lovely gala dinner now in the capital. It's very glamorous and it's very nice, and there's lovely awards, and it's all of these things. One of the most controversial rules that was installed from the very beginning, and remained controversial for years, was the exemplary sportsman rule. So if you were sent off in a season, you were automatically gone. You couldn't win an All-Star at any level, club or county. You just had to avoid getting sent off. And if, by the way, if it happened in between you getting selected and the banquet, you just didn't get invited to the banquet.
You didn't forfeit the award, though.
No, but you forfeited your nice dinner.
So, folks, the message is, if you are going to get sent off, do it between being named and going to the banquet.
So that rule had to be gradually was removed, thankfully. So lads can go nuts all year now if they want, but the sportsmanship still does come into it. On tight calls, it will come into it. So, and the other thing as well that was notable in 1971 was free stuff, right? So Eddie Kerr.
So what kind of swag were they getting?
Yeah, so Eddie Kerr, the great Kilkenny hurler, remarked, so they got a Carroll's blazer. They were delighted with this because this was mad, free blazer. They got free gear.
Something to wear to the dance hall.
Something to wear to the dance hall and maybe even the banquet. They got free gear, jersey, shorts, socks. Amazing. Johnny Carey from Mayo, club mate of yours, I think.
Club mate of my own, yes.
Yeah, Johnny Carey was the first.
Although when he won his Mayo's first All-Star, he was actually playing for Tuam Stars at the time.
Okay. Well, I think Kiltane can still lay a very strong.
Yeah. He returned the following year, led us to glory.
There you go. Well, you can't bait breeding, as they say. So Johnny Carey from Mayo, he actually said it was the first time when he got this gear, it was the first time he'd ever gotten anything free from the GAA. So this was really important. Another thing that was important was the social aspect of it. So this was really that gala banquet. It was the first time that a lot of players in a mass way would meet each other. Because, if you think about it, the college scene wasn't huge. So they weren't necessarily meeting in Sigerson Fitzgibbon Cup. There just wasn't events to go to. They would meet when they played on the field. So in terms of picking the team, so you have your 11-person committee. Well, it's 11-man committee. There was no women involved.
I was about to say, let's not pretend that there was a gang of women in there.
No. It was very much of its time. So you had the 11 journalists in the room. You had the GAA president, Pat Fanning, Sean O'Shea-Conner observing, and the meeting was chaired by Pat Heenan, who was the PR man from Carroll's. It was very interesting when you think now. So because the championship was knockout, and for some teams very small and very short, league games were very important, and how you performed through the winter time into the spring could win you an All-Star, and it in some cases it certainly nudged a few guys over the line.
Love the free episodes of Over the Bar? Then take your passion further with the Corja Club membership. For €5 a month, you'll unlock bonus series and member-only shows, hear the podcast first and ad-free, and get behind-the-scenes access through detailed notes, a newsletter, and Q&As. It's the ultimate GAA history experience, curated by Michael Foley and Ciaran O'Hara just for you. Upgrade your listening, support the show. Join today at overthebar.club.
Even in terms of the announcing of the teams, nowadays either the hurling or the football team will be announced a couple of days before the event to give it a bit of a push, right? And then there'll be a team revealed on the night. So in that way, the media organizations can kind of spread the newsworthiness of the whole thing across about 4 days, 5 days, if you preview it early in the week and all the way to Saturday, then reacting to what it was like, maybe even Sunday. Back then, they just appeared randomly in the newspaper. Now, they were given all the bells and the whistles with the photographs and all the rest of it, but it was very haphazard. So, like, for example, Limerick's Pat Hartigan won the All-Star Hurling Fullback Award. And he opened the paper, and whatever paper he bought, there was a picture of him, all right, but it was Ray Cummins' name underneath his...
Right, so Ray's now getting one at fullback too.
So Ray's everywhere. Damien Martin, the Offaly goalkeeper, first goalkeeper All-Star. He got off a flight from New York and picked up the Irish press in the airport to find himself named as All-Star hurling goalkeeper completely out of the blue. He had no idea he was winning it. But then a few little things kind of clicked in together. He remembered Offaly had played a league game in the previous couple of weeks against Dublin up in Crow Park. And he remembered before going on the field being told to behave himself before the league game because the exemplary behaviour rules. So someone obviously knew, as I say, it was leaky as a sieve. So someone knew that Damien Martin was getting an All-Star, but they didn't tell him. That same evening, they went back to Barry's Hotel, the Offaly team. Damien just got pulled away by a photographer randomly for a photograph. Again, no one told him why he needed to get a head and shoulders photograph taken around, but he did, and Damien wasn't inclined to ask. So that was it. Some of the photograph stories are kind of funny. So Babs Keating, who won an All-Star for the hurling team at centre forward, he had a dodgy tooth, so he got a crown fixed the morning before the photographer arrived to take his photograph. John Connolly, if anybody, and we'll put these in the show notes.
The posters are part of the charm of the All-Stars, was you would always get your All-Star poster, or you'd see the All-Star posters everywhere at that time.
Exactly. And the 1971 poster, it's a real hodgepodge. So you have Damien Martin in his civvies. You have guys who have clearly just been snapped at a match or something like that. But one of the most striking ones is John Connolly from Galway.
Doing the Pádraig Pearse side profile photo.
It's very dashing, suave, kind of handsome-looking guy with kind of side-on profile. And it always, over the years, the odd time you'd see it, it would always catch your eye because he's the only one doing the Pádraig Pearse, but it's a very dashing-looking photograph. But it turns out that the reason why he was side-on was because he had played a hurling game for his employer the previous week.
Like an interfirms game or something.
Yeah, some kind of an interfirms match or something. And he got an awful whack in the side of the face. So one half of his face was black and blue. So when the photographer arrived down to Galway to take a picture, they kind of had a look and he said, well, we might do this in side profile, maybe might be the best thing to do. But it's a lovely photograph, but it's the only one side profile. So it's all very kind of a bit random and a bit all of this, but it's great. Should we name out the teams, do you think, just for posterity?
I do, yeah.
So the hurling team, in goals, Damien Martin. Right cornerback, Tony Maher from Cork. Pat Hartigan from Limerick fullback. Jim Tracy, left cornerback from Kilkenny. Right half-back, Tiger Connor from Tip. Centre-back, the great Mick Roach from Tip. Left half-back, Martin Coogan from Kilkenny. Keep in mind, by the way, Tipperary were All-Ireland champions this year. They beat Kilkenny in the final. Yeah. Your midfield pairing is Frank Cummins from Kilkenny and John Connolly from Galway. Your half-forward line, Francis Loughnane from Tipperary. Babs Keating, centre-forward. And left half-forward is Eddie Kerr from Kilkenny. And your full-forward line is Mick Birmingham from Dublin. Ray Cummins from Cork, remember he was nominated in both, and Eamon Cregan from Limerick, left corner forward. So some real greats there. The football team in goals, PJ Smith, by the way, it was Offaly won their first All-Ireland that year, 1971. So PJ Smith from Galway in goal, Johnny Carey Mayo right corner back, Jack Cosgrove from Galway, full back. Left corner back is Donny O'Sullivan from Kerry. Your half back line, Eugene Mulligan, right half back. Nicholas Clavin is centre back, Offaly. Pat Reynolds from Meath is left half back. Midfield pairing, Liam Salmon from Galway, Willie Bryan from Offaly. I tell you, there's some forwards here to conjure with now. Right half forwards, Tony McTague from Offaly. Centre forward, the great Ray Cummins from Cork. We'll come back to Ray now in a minute. Mickey Kearns from Sligo is left half forward. Andy McCallan from Antrim is right corner forward. Sean O'Neill from Down, full forward. And Seamus Lydon from Galway is left corner forward. That football team alone, by the way, 9 different counties represented. There's never...
I'd say it's much more broadly selected than the hurling.
We've never had an all-star team with such a spread since. 9 counties are represented. In terms of the function, just to get that much out of the way while we're kind of working through the chronology of this thing. So the function was on the 15th of December, 1971, mid-December. But the function really starts in the afternoon at the lunch. These legendary lunches where a lot of journalists and guests, because there's free booze, a lot of journalists and guests, they don't survive to the banquet. They don't make the banquet. They have to bow out.
They don't get there for the soakage.
No, they have to bow out. Not always gracefully, sometimes quite disgracefully. On the night, Jack Lynch is presenting the awards. He's the Taoiseach. And I have to read this out. So Pat Fanning, president of GAA, describes the GAA journalists, the cohort at the time, as a body of men whose devotion must be unparalleled in the history of sport. Wow.
I can so see current administrations echoing that endorsement.
oh, yeah. We get that all the time. So, thankfully, by the way, because the hurling team passes off without much said about it. It's a good, solid team. There's no great argument. Thankfully, there is arguments about the football team. Mitchell Cogley in the Irish Independent is the first one to properly unsheathe his sword and go at his fellow colleagues. He says, since the announcement of the Football 15, I have heard all sorts of cribs, and with due deference to those of my colleagues who made the final judgment, I heartily agree with what the knockers have to say. So in his column, he goes through what he thinks are the mistakes. So he describes...
So Mitchell's picking his all-star team again here.
Well, he's not... Again, it's the famous old argument. He's not so much picking his all-star team. He's picking the lads who should be in it without always... knocking someone out. So, for example, he describes the exclusion of Mick O'Connell from Kerry as, quote, a clanger. He says Jimmy Duggan should be in instead of Liam Salmon, Jimmy Duggan of Galway. Willie Bryan shouldn't be in the team at all, he says. And, quote, he cannot understand why Mick O'Dwyer from Kerry is not in the team. But, and again, quote, of all the boobs pulled, he says, Ray Cummins at centre forward in the football team. Now, keep in mind, Ray was nominated in 4 different spots. The journalists' defence at the time was, well, Sean O'Neill was by far from Down the best full forward, whereas Ray did see active service in a variety of different places, so they could justify him going.
But Ray was a full forward.
He was a full forward. So again, we are in the era, we're not in the era yet. Like now, there is a lot of leeway in terms of where you position guys. You're really looking for the best, I suppose, 6 defenders, obviously 2 best centre fielders, and then the best 6 forwards, whatever way you can put them together. And the game is so fluid, you can justify it whatever way you want. Back in the 1971, bit more difficult. But the fact that Ray Cummins was moved around like a chess piece by Cork, they said we can put him centre forward and we'll be okay. Now, of course, the other big thing about the All-Stars, Ciaran, is the holiday, right?
The trip, like the All-Star trip. It's
exactly.
And they go and play matches.
They go and play matches with varying degrees of interest over the years, mostly flatlining, it would have to be said. I don't know.
But it's partly the beauty of the All-Star game. It's just like, how high will they score this year?
So back in 1971, they had a different kind of sense of what it might be. They didn't really know what it was going to be, but they thought the matches might be, it's the best of the best against the All-Ireland champions, so might be something in this. Here's the thing that surprised me about doing this episode and doing the research for this episode. The amount of problems there are. I mean, we're talking, there's player disputes.
And yet they're all familiar problems to us. If you've listened to any of the episodes we've done before this.
To some degree, yeah. Player disputes, the Troubles impact on this tour in an interesting way, which we'll come to in a minute. But first of all, the basic bones of it. So they're going to go to San Francisco from March 26th to April the 2nd, 1972. And immediately there are issues. So the Offaly footballers, who are the All-Ireland champions, are unhappy. Pocket money that they're being given is they're being given $60 a man for the whole trip. That's the lot.
For the whole trip?
Yeah. Just to put it in some kind of comparison, like the All-Star trips have gone into abeyance in recent years because it's just hard for guys to get away between team holidays and the club championships and all the rest of it. But back in the day when All-Star teams toured around, up to recent years, the players now would get around €100 a day, right? So, but back in 1971, it was $60 for your whole trip. And Offaly were not happy. So there was a standoff before they even got on the plane. It required a 2-hour meeting below in Offaly where, by the way, no...
And why this is critical is because the concept is that the All-Ireland champions of that preceding year will play the All-Star team.
Exactly.
So the All-Ireland football champions are involved in this standoff.
Exactly. And they're saying, we're not travelling unless we get more money. So there's a 2-hour meeting below in Offaly. The Offaly officials are very, very keen to point out in the reportage afterwards that they did not attend the meeting. This is a players' meeting. A statement comes out that says, the members of the Offaly senior football panel gratefully accept the invitation to San Francisco. There was never any doubt of any player not going. I've got the wrong idea. We regret the adverse comments in recent press articles, and we wish to make it clear that this was not a true reflection of the opinion of Offaly players. So obviously they've been told, you can complain for more money, but it's making you look like complete bandits, and also we just won't take you if you don't.
This is not an era of like transatlantic holidays being the norm in Ireland.
Exactly. This is a level of kind of glamour and opportunity that players are going back and forth for weekends to play in New York and so on, obviously, but this is like a week holiday in San Francisco. This is totally different. So it kind of just seeps on for another couple of days. There's a story that the Offaly players were actually looking for £1,000 extra, which would have worked out at £44 extra a man. And Offaly was just not paying that because we're already spending $1,000 to bring 5 extra people on the trip. The GAA are sufficiently spooked that they release a statement that said this trip will go ahead in strict accordance with the regulations already determined. And that the statement talks about the attitude of the Offaly players. So it's a bit spiky and a bit pointed. Everyone's a bit nervous now. The GAA are a bit nervous. The journalists who organise this format are a bit nervous about, well, we don't want standoffs. We don't want this kind of bad publicity. And the sponsors are obviously nervous as well.
Love GAA history? Then you love going deeper with Over the Bar's Cordia Club membership. For just €5 a month, you'll get exclusive member-only episodes and series, early ad-free access to the main podcast, plus detailed show notes, a newsletter, and the chance to have your questions answered. Join Michael Foley and Ciaran O'Hara as they uncover the stories, the legends, and the questions that shaped our games. Don't just listen, be part of the club. Join now at overthebar.club.
The next issue that pops up is over the All-Star replacements, because obviously Offaly are going to play the football All-Stars, Tipperary are going to play the hurling All-Stars. There are Tip men on the hurling team, there are Offaly men on the football team. The sponsors want the All-Star team to be the All-Star team. They want Offaly men playing against Offaly, they want Tip lads playing against Tip. But the players, it seems, wanted to play with their own counties. So it was kind of, what are we going to do? So it was actually left in the end to the organisers from the San Francisco side of things to pick All-Star replacements. And so
the GAA aren't organising this. Who's organising?
So the GAA are just facilitating the players going over. The organisers are the United Irish Societies of San Francisco, helped by the Kiltegan Fathers of California. So we're in a different world here now, Ciaran. We're in a very, very different world to modern day All-Star tours and whatnot. So for what it's worth, because it is kind of interesting, the names, the first All-Star replacements that travelled. Eamon Coleman from Derry, who of course was the manager in 93, travelled as an All-Star replacement in 1971, even though he wasn't even nominated for an All-Star. So we're keeping in mind now, the United Irish Society and the Kiltegan Fathers are picking these lads. So Eamon Coleman goes, Mick Carolan from Kildare goes, Ray Carolan from Cavan, Brian McAniff from Donegal, and Jimmy Hannafy from Longford are the football replacements. And then the hurling, Niall Wheeler from Antrim, Justin McCarthy from Cork, Jim McNamara from Clare, John Quigley from Wexford, Paddy Fahey from Galway are brought. And Dennis Collin from Cork has to go because, remember, Ray Cummins has won 2 All-Stars. So they need a 30th man. So Dennis Collin is brought as well. So everything is set. We have sorted out our replacements. The Offaly lads are getting on the plane. Everything is good to
I'd
go.
say they're going to be staying in some fancy hotels on this trip, are they?
Well, that's the other thing then. So yes, the modern day trip is, you get well looked after, a nice hotel. There'll be mints on your pillow. Big pool. There'll be, okay, you may have to go and do some, coaching clinic somewhere nearby and play a match, but generally you're wined and dined and serenaded for a week. Back then, the players, and again, organised by the United Irish Societies and the Kiltegan Fathers, stayed as guests in people's houses. So Eddie Kerr, for example, remembered staying with a man from Callan before moving on. He didn't stay, he had to move on to stay with Justin McCarthy's sister, Una, in San Francisco.
Where was Justin staying?
And I mean, wasn't it just lovely that Justin got picked as an all-star replacement? I presume he got to stay with his sister, got to visit his sister, which was lovely. So neighbours of these people took players in. So it was, instead of kind of big set-piece occasions, it was a lot of house parties. They did go to Vegas for 2 days, but it was the glamour of like house parties.
I'd say the $60 took a fair tanking on that trip.
Oh, listen, I don't think it would have lasted very long. I'd say burned through their pockets in Vegas in a couple of hours. One shrimp cocktail and heading in to see, I don't know, Sammy Davis Jr. doing his thing, or whoever was doing cabaret in Vegas at the time. That was probably the end of that. But the glamour thing for these, you got to remember, like, they're staying with people in houses with swimming pools. The weather is nice. This is a world away. But before they left at all, there was one other.
There was the potential here for another American invasion. None of our top players return home.
Yeah, they were happy to stay.
The lovely houses, the sunshine.
Some of them stay out there. Just stay out there as pool boys and whatnot. We'll make this work.
Okay, so that's the fun side of things. But this is, as you've said, a very different time and a very different Ireland. The troubles are at their height at this time as well, and it does impact upon the tour. Tell us about that.
Unfortunately, it does, yeah. So as I mentioned, Sean O'Neill from Down was picked as full forward in the football team. For any student of Gaelic football, they will know the name Sean O'Neill is one of the greatest footballers of all time, hugely influential on a Down football team that changed Gaelic football. That is definitely a topic we'll be coming back to at some stage down the track. Sean O'Neill was also a solicitor. He worked in Belfast. So as I said, the All-Star Tour headed off on the 26th of March. On the 20th of March, 1972, the IRA detonated a £100 car bomb on Lower Donegal Street. They parked the Ford Cortina outside the offices of the Belfast Newsletter. It was detonated. It killed 7 people. It injured 148 people. 2 RUC constables who were inspecting the car when it went off were blown to pieces. Parts of their body were found in neighbouring shops. One of them was a Catholic. And of the 148 who were injured, Sean O'Neill from Down was one of them. His solicitor's office was across the road from the Newsletter, and the windows were blown in, glass everywhere. Sean O'Neill suffered cuts to his face and his head. The office was completely destroyed. There was talk at the time that Sean wouldn't travel because, they had to put their business back together after this catastrophe. But ultimately, he travelled. So he was there. He went to San Francisco. So less than a week after this appalling explosion, he's on a flight to San Francisco to play football.
Were there concerns about him flying? Because I'm just thinking, this is a 16-hour flight and he's suffered significant injuries.
Yeah, there was the medical advice, according to the reports at the time, were that he shouldn't travel. But he obviously decided somewhere between, the situation with his office, with work, and the possibility to go to San Francisco to go. So he was on the flight with everybody else. To move beyond that a little bit, the flight itself was great fun as well, by the way. I mean, the Tipperary hurlers turned up with lovely blazers and shirts that they got that were donated to them from a local tailor. Carol's, of course, are sponsoring the event, so cigarettes and Tullamore Dew whiskey everywhere on the flight, the 16-hour flight. It was like an episode of Mad Men heading across.
Oh, this is like a 1970s wake.
Yeah, you know what? It's probably more wake than Mad Men, all right, isn't it? It is a bit more.
Were they on plates being passed around?
So, it's party time and they land. And as I say, people aren't sure what to expect from the football game and the hurling game. So there's going to be 2 games, both played in San Francisco at Balboa Park.
Yeah, so Balboa Park is a city centre, city park in San Francisco. And I'm going to presume that they play at the Boxer Stadium, which is a small soccer stadium in the park, which I think was used by the GAA in San Francisco for a number of years before they built their own complex.
Yeah, so it's not a huge stadium, but nobody really knows kind of what to expect from these matches. Like, there is a hope, definitely a hope among the United Irish Societies and the Kiltegan Fathers. This is going to be a barn burner of a series, and it's going to be very exciting. But no one really knows what's going to happen. So they play the games, and true enough to what will become All-Star tradition, they're pure exhibitions. The players don't really know how hard to go, where to kind of pitch their effort. So it ends up being two fairly flabby matches. It's a cold day in San Francisco as well. It's not like nice, lovely, warm spring day or anything like that. Officially, the crowd is set at 6,000. No one believes it got up that high. They have a training session the following week. No one really turns up. So it's decided to put some kind of shape and make, or potential shape and make, on the second set of games. We'll make this a two-legged competition. So aggregate scores will decide who wins. By the way, there's cups and everything for this. So second game, the following weekend, the crowd is even smaller. So they're saying now, there's barely even 2,000 at it. They're saying, well, the organisers, the Kiltegan Fathers and the United Irish Society say, lads, it's Easter time. It's big time for holidays. That's why there's no one turning out. You're kind of wondering, yeah, really? The Easter holiday is going to take that many people away. But think of what were they expecting, Ciaran, too,
Yeah, well, I mean, look, this isn't Gaelic Park in the Bronx. This is the West Coast. It's a smaller Irish-American community.
Yeah, and it's very spread out as well, by the way. I mean, there's one you talk about because they were all staying in people's houses, they're not in one centralised hotel or anything like that. So you have, for example, the case of John Gleeson from Tipperary, who was on the tip hurling team. He had to go home for a family emergency. Someone was ill at home. So he made his own arrangements to get on a flight and get back to Dublin, get back to Ireland. Didn't tell anybody as such. So the first that Tipperary heard about it was from one of the journalists who were like going, so who are you going to play instead of John Gleeson next Sunday or whatever? Tommy Barrett, the Tipperary secretary, is going, what? What do you mean? So he's gone home. He had family emergency. What the hell are you talking about? So it's like that. It's a bit raggle-taggle. It's a bit all over the shop. For what it's worth, by the way, Offaly beat the All-Star football team, and the All-Star hurlers beat the Tipperary hurlers. So that's it. The United Irish Societies and the Kiltegan Fathers, they had set the bar, I would say, quite high on this one. They were hoping to make a profit of about $12,000 on all of this. They certainly didn't make that much, but they did make enough to say, we'll have you back next year. Come back in 1973. We'd love to have you in Frisco. Would you like to know, by the way, where the money went?
Yeah, well, I presume to the organisers, like they'd both be charitable bodies, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they are charitable bodies, but it didn't quite go there. So 3 different charities benefited. First of all, the Ancient Order of Hibernians Fund for Northern Relief, the GAA's own Northern Relief Fund, and an organisation called Northern Aid, which you might know better, Ciaran, as NorAid.
Okay. And I'm taking it that the Northern Relief in question here is not Northern California.
No, there hadn't been.
But this is a far more tumultuous time in Ireland, as we've seen.
Yeah.
From the bombing that affected Sean O'Neill. Exactly.
We're not talking about wildfires in Northern California or anything like that here. You're right. And I have to say, you're okay there at the beginning of that sentence. More or less kind of matched my okay when I came across this particular nugget. But as you say, it's of its time. So, the troubles are really, really taking off now. We've had Bloody Sunday by this stage in 1972 in Derry. There are nationalist Catholic communities getting, effectively firebombed out of their homes. There's people that are coming south. There are camps on the border to look after these people. They're getting moved to other parts of cities and towns and areas of Northern Ireland just to be safe. There's an enormous displacement of people, of refugees, essentially. So for the likes of the Ancient Order Hibernians and the GAA, that's where the money is going, is to help those families to relieve their difficulties. When it comes to NorAid, of course, we know now, looking back down through the years, there's always been debate over whether the money would have gone purely to a prisoners fund, or was it for, buying arms and shipping arms and all the other services, I suppose, that the IRA would have needed to prosecute their war against Crown forces at the time in the North. That is, we will never know where the GA money went, but we do know that whatever money they made, and it wasn't $12,000, it was much less, was divided among those 3 charities. But like I say, the United Irish Society and the Kiltegan Fathers, they're cock-a-hoop. They're feeling good about all of this. They're happy. They want him back. It's going to be better in 73, Ciaran.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we think about it this way, Mick, even in the communities we live in, let's just say the all-star hurling and football teams descended upon you with the reigning All-Ireland champions, we'd all be pretty excited.
Yeah.
And we would be in a situation where we'd have seen these teams. This must have been incredibly special for Irish Americans in San Francisco. This must have made them feel like they were at the center of the diasporatic world.
Diasporatic world. What? That's.
I'm not even sure if that's a word. But
I'm pretty sure it's not. But here we are. Yeah, why not? The diasporatic world. Yeah, why not? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a big thing for them. And I mean, when we're kind of considering whether this thing was a success or not, I am absolutely drawn to Paul Rouse and the episode we did with Paul recently on the first All-Ireland hurling final. And Paul's, verdict on that was the very fact that they managed to run an All-Ireland hurling championship and produce champions made it a success. And it's the same here. The very fact that a bunch of journalists were able to get the GAA on board, get a sponsor on board, nominations, pick a team, have a gala banquet, get them to San Francisco, and get them back again with an. I
was going to say, like, getting them back again is the big thing when you consider the appeal of the big houses and the pools and the heat.
I know. I mean, it was all so glamorous. I mean, we cannot even conceive as to how glamorous it is now. When we know ourselves, when we go to these places, we look around and go, this is really, really nice. So you can imagine what that was like in 1971 for these guys going over.
Love GAA history? Then you love going deeper with Over the Bar's Cordia Club membership. For just €5 a month, you'll get exclusive member-only episodes and series, early ad-free access to the main podcast, plus detailed show notes, a newsletter, and the chance to have your questions answered. Join Michael Foley and Ciaran O'Hara as they uncover the stories, the legends, and the questions that shaped our games. Don't just listen, be part of the club. Join now at overthebar.club.
But the fact that they got them back and with an invite to come back and a guarantee that this thing could go on for at least another year anyway, it's a huge success. I mean, Kevin Downey, who was, I suppose, what you'd call him, I guess, the logistics manager for the United Irish Societies in San Francisco. He's the main organizer of everything. He was really enthusiastic for where this could go. He said that if he could get this thing going right, get it promoted right, and he was talking about going like to the San Francisco 49ers people to get advice on how to promote this thing properly. He said, if we get this right for 73, it could be the biggest thing other than pro sport to hit the West Coast. Now we're thinking big.
That's pretty big talk when you consider this is the city where you have the Stanford and Berkeley college football.
Yes, listen,
yeah,
it's insane. They barely got 2,000 to the second match in a little soccer ground in the middle of a park in San Francisco, and they're going to make it the biggest thing other than pro sport to hit the West Coast. But I think over the years, I think expectations, flattened out, let's just say, and it became what it was for a long time. The All-Star trip in particular was just a nice reward for players to get away to places they may never have gotten otherwise. And the All-Star concept itself, it puts down strong roots from the very beginning. And, here we are in another, I mean, as I say, today, the teams are being picked. In another couple of days, the debates will begin. That's great. It's great. It's brilliant for the players who win them. And it's brilliant for everybody else to it gets you back thinking about the season. It gets you back debating, and it shortens the journey to the new season, doesn't it?
Certainly does. And I gather, look, I imagine for the United Societies of San Francisco, it must have been a hell of a lot more fun than just doing the annual St. Patrick's Day parade.
Oh, well, you'd have to hope so.
So, look, while we're on the topic of elite representation, we'll point you to our Cordia exclusive. We have part 2 of our first mini-series for our Cordia members is available today. The subject is the 1984 Compromise Rules series.
It's not international.
Compromise. It's not international rules yet. It's Compromise Rules series. It is an absolutely fascinating subject.
Yeah.
You should know that from the fact that we did 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So if you're not a Cordia member, do sign up because you will definitely enjoy those episodes. To everybody else, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, they have these things you can do on them. You can rate. If you really like us, give us a 5-star rating. If you're only so, we're happy enough with a 1-star
I'll
rating.
take anything.
Just rate.
Really, anything.
They have a little button that lets you subscribe so that the episodes will hit your feed every week. Hit that button. And most of all, if you see a little icon that says share, hit it, copy the links, and share with other people that you think will love these stories. Because we're just trying to do something different. This is Gaelic Games, independent storytelling, and we need a hand here. So get the word out.
Yeah. I mean, such a heartfelt plea, Ciaran. I think you'll be getting work with Concern.
It's not quite Geldof and Live Aid, but you know.
Yeah, keep it clean. We want our clean rating.
Anyway, folks, listen, thanks again for listening. It's been great having you. Mick, great story. I'm sure from the All-Stars alone, we will be mining multiple episodes.
We will be back. We will absolutely be back.